So a member asked me a question, and I thought it was a good one to share with you because it's going to teach you about WordPress, about PHP, and code quality. So I want to share this with you. He had been looking around at themes, at plugins, at WordPress core, at what I teach, at Beans, and so on. And he noticed that sometimes the function comes first and then the add action that registers that function as a callback to some hook. But then other times in the way that I do it is the add action comes first and then the function. So he wanted to know, does it matter? Does it matter if the function comes first or after? And my answer is this, no and yes. All right, so no, it does not matter to PHP or WordPress, and I'm going to show that to you here in just a little bit. Yes, it does matter, and it really matters for code quality, for readability, and again, I'm going to show that to you. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into this. Let's use 2017 as the basis for this particular exercise we're going to go through. Okay, so if we go into functions.php and we scroll down, the first function that we come to is on line 27. It's 2017_setup. Let me ask you a question. What calls this particular function? So if you come into this function, do you know that that's a callback? No, right? Because let's see, I don't see an add action. How do I know that's a callback? Well, we see here that they've added a description for us to let us know that, hey, this function is hooked into this. Now, that is really not necessary. If it's there to provide more information about some of the details of what's going on in here, that's different. But here when we read this, we don't know that that's a callback. Instead, we've got to scroll all the way down. Let's do that now. There's way too much code in this particular function, by the way. But once we get down here to line 225, we can see there's an add action right there. And now we see there's the function. It's a callback that's registered to that after setup theme event. That hook. So it's hooked into WordPress there. But we didn't know that when we first started reading the code. Now, let's deal with PHP and WordPress to start with. Neither of them care if it's after the function or if we pick this up and we scroll back to the top and we put it there. It doesn't care. Okay? I've heard some arguments about, well, wait a minute. We have to have that add action after the function because PHP needs to load the function declaration first. I've heard that argument. Well, no, that's not true. Watch this. Okay, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to call the function before I declare it. Okay, so if that were true, that means then I couldn't call a function until after it's declared. But watch this. Okay, matter of fact, I'm going to go and just say die. Hey, it worked. That way you can see that we're not going to get a fatal error. Instead, it is going to load that up. If you want to see that, yes, it really is that function, let's go ahead and just run this. Okay, so here's my sandbox. And if I refresh, bam, right there. It does work, okay? Let me just quickly explain. And then I gave you a link down below here in the article if you want to go read more about how PHP manages its opcodes. All right, so what happens is this. PHP loads up this file, starts up at the top, and it reads down just like we do. Okay, and it goes through and it's going to generate what's called opcodes at compile time, and it's going to store this function in memory. Now, because we are trying to invoke it there, but it hasn't been loaded yet, what it does then is at runtime now, is it regenerates those opcodes, which takes time and a lot of time. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. And it allows you to be able to call a function at runtime before it's actually declared in memory. Okay, so yes, PHP will allow you to do this. Here's one more thing I want you to know. Don't ever do that though. Don't ever go and do this where you call a function and then that. Why? Because it's slow, really slow. Okay, it will slow things down. Now, if you only do it once, you probably will never know it. But as we build code, we want to build code that is not going to have a performance issue right out of the box. So we'll just get rid of that. But I wanted to show you that the order there did not matter to PHP. It will let you. Okay, the other things I'll show you is if we wanted to test, in your mind, it should be that if I put this code right here, right, to check for this particular function, does it exist or not, this die should occur, because we would think at line 20 here, hey, it doesn't exist, fault out, right? Okay, so watch this. We'll say die does not exist. What do you think is going to happen? Will this die fire? Okay, because technically right there in our minds, it doesn't exist, which it doesn't. Okay, let's go run it. Refresh. Nope, it was fine. Nothing happened. It's fine. So as I said, PHP allows us to do that. Okay, so that's not a valid argument. Here's the second thing about why PHP nor WordPress care. Think about how an event system here works. Okay, we do the add action, we go to WordPress, and we register in a string. We're going to register that particular function. Register it into WordPress in a lookup table, and then when WordPress fires this after setup theme event, okay, it does a do action, and it fires that event, then WordPress will go and call that function down here. So therefore, that's already happened long after we've loaded up functions.php into memory. Okay? My point here is this. WordPress nor PHP care if the add action should be before or after the callback that's registered to the hook. So therefore, that's not an argument here for this. So now let's go to readability. I asked you when we first started this, could you tell if that was a callback? And no, you can't tell. Because think about the way we read anything, actually. A book, code, a magazine, a website. We don't open it up and start at the bottom and read backwards up. We start at the top and we read down. Okay, the same way that code is executed down the page. Great. So therefore, by putting the intent first like that, it's letting us know, you, me, and anybody else who reads this code, hey, this is the event. We are going to hook this function right here into that event. And it's bound together right there so that we can quickly, listen to that word quickly pop into this file, be able to quickly recognize the binding there, and be able to do our work and get on with it. Okay, that's the importance of readability. Quickly understand what's going on and then get to work. We don't have to fuss around trying to figure out, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because the code's not well organized, things aren't described properly in their naming and so on. Here, by just doing just this order, it dramatically improves our readability because the intent is very clear. Hey, I'm going to take that function, that one right there, and I'm going to bind it to that hook. Okay? Readability matters.